Hi guys, I'm Em and welcome back to Eight-Legged Babes. So today we are going to be talking all about my baby jumping spiders, which are all Phidippus johnsoni or Johnson's jumping spiders. Some of you may know, those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, that back in November of 2024, I picked up a Phidippus johnsoni female at a reptile show up in New Hampshire. This was Molly. She was a mature female. She was a species I'd never owned before. I was really excited to have her. And just like a lot of other people in the spider hobby, I got her home. A month later, she laid an egg sac. And I found out that she not only was wild caught, but was also gravid. So because of that, I ended up having not one, but two of Molly's clutches while I had her. The first clutch, I think I want to say it was about like 45 babies. I ended up giving to a local reptile store that had an arachnid vendor that they worked with, and he took them off their hands to sell at, I want to say, basically the same reptile show that I picked up their mom from. But the second clutch of babies I decided to keep, and I actually was going to raise up and get a little bit more size on them and then sell them to that same reptile shop. Unfortunately, over the summer, that reptile shop closed, and so I ended up just kind of investing time and effort in taking care of these babies and learning about them. And actually, the first video on my channel was a feeding video of these babies back in March of 2025. And honestly, these babies have taught me a lot, not just about jumping spiders, but just raising spiders in general and jumping spider demeanor and personality and handling. And I don't think I would change anything, even though I now have a bunch of baby jumping spiders, just because of how much that they've taught me by having them and just what a joy it's been getting to raise them. Now, some of you are probably asking, why is she talking so much about these baby jumping spiders? Well, it's because I've decided to sell them. Now, I'm not selling all of them. I have 3 that I've set aside to keep that are special to me, but I do want to sell the rest of them, and that means that I have 29 baby Johnson's jumping spiders to share with other people in the community. Because of that, I figured I would use my channel to share these baby jumping spiders with you and kind of get the word out that they're for sale. But also, I wanted to kind of highlight what selling jumping spiders looks like, specifically if you're doing it through MorphMarket, and just give you guys kind of a peek into what setting up a storefront and vending can look like. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with MorphMarket, it is an online platform for vendors in the reptile, amphibian, and invertebrate hobbies to sell their animals. I believe it started just specifically for reptiles, but it's really kind of expanded, and now there's just a ton of great species you can find on there. So the first thing I had to do was I actually had to go through each individual baby, and I had to get really close-up pictures. I was looking for 2 things. I wanted to have really, really good shots of their face, as close as I could get, and I wanted to get good shots of their abdomen, specifically because Phidippus johnsoni, when they're babies or juveniles, they have really intricate patterns that differ from baby to baby, and I kind of wanted to highlight that for anyone interested in buying them so they could tell them apart more easily and just see a bit of like what makes that baby special. So doing this photo shoot actually was really great because it gave me the opportunity to do two things. One, it let me actually go through, get a really close-up look at these babies and decide on names for them, because up until this point, I'd been using a number system. I did this with the first clutch that Molly laid as well. Mostly once I got the babies separated into their deli cups, they each got a number, and that helped me keep track of them and keep track of their growth and their eating, but it kept me from getting too attached to any, mostly because, and anyone who's raised baby jumpers will tell you this, they have a pretty high mortality rate. Not every clutch, not every baby, but it's really common to lose a good chunk of babies. I think the average is like anywhere between 10 and 50% of your babies. So I didn't want to give them all really cute names and then have, half of them die off on me, which ironically, I was actually really lucky. I think I lost maybe 3 or 4 with the first clutch, but I gave them to the reptile store pretty early. I think they were like I3. They were not very big. These babies, which are now I7, I8, I actually think I only lost 10 overall. It's tough now because I'm down to 29 babies, but I've actually sold or given or traded a few here and there over the past couple months. So I want to say she had 52. And yeah, I think we only lost 10. So really good odds, honestly, for my first clutch that I've raised. Back to naming. This gave me a chance to give each of them individual names, which I thought was going to be really special, especially because I'm creating ads for each of these babies. I want them to have a signifier outside of just a number. So I was able to get a close look at them, see their pattern, kind of see their personality when I played with them, and decide, what name best fits them. Now this photo shoot also gave me a chance to try and sex some of the babies. Like I said, they're around I7, I8, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to tell the sex of any of the spiders. Some spiders in the jumping hobby, like Phidippus regius, which is, kind of the go-to species for a lot of people, they're much easier to sex at a much smaller instar. I want to say like I5 is usually when you can tell whether your P. regius is a girl or a boy. With P. johnsoni, it's a bit tougher because they don't have distinctive patterns or colors that change depending on sex until they mature. Mature males end up having bright red abdomens, whereas females tend to retain a pattern on their abdomen with that red color. So I fully wasn't expecting to be able to sex any of these babies before I sold them. I was just gonna list them as unsexed, which to be fair, a lot of them still are because I'm just not certain enough. But ironically, doing this photo shoot, I found 2 boys. So those 2 boys I spotted were Equinox and Sage. So I actually noticed Equinox was a male on the day of the photo shoot. I opened up the cup, I pulled him out and got a close-up shot and immediately saw that he had very bulbous pedipalps. Now he is not a mature male. Again, he's probably I7, I8. I am not sure what the exact instar is where male spiders will develop their kind of quintessential boxing glove pedipalps, but he had them. And that told me, okay, well, if I know he's a male, I need to keep an eye out and go through my babies more carefully and make sure I know who's a female, who's a male, and who isn't quite old enough to be decided yet. So after that, I caught Sage, who is another one of my males, actually just molted out into being a male, not mature yet, but I want to say 2 or 3 days after the photo shoot. So I'm kind of checking in every day to see if anyone else has molted where I can really tell, okay, you're a male, you're a female. For those of you wondering, okay, if the males have these, bulbous punching glove pedipalps, what do the females look like? Well, females have very soft, fuzzy pedipalps and they're much smaller. So you notice right away, like, oh, okay, that's a female. And of course, I don't want anyone to worry. All of the babies were perfect models and they were paid accordingly following the photo shoot. So my next step was I had to make pictures for each of the baby's ads on MorphMarket. And what I mean by that is I took all of the raw images of each baby, which the process for that was really slow because I would take a picture of the baby, upload those pictures to my computer, and make sure they were in their own folder before getting the next picture set moved onto my computer, which slowed down the process a lot from baby to baby. But when you're photographing 29 jumping spiders that all look vaguely similar, and you're taking 20 to 30 pictures of each baby, you can get very disorganized very quickly. So I made that a priority when I was taking the pictures. But from those files, I want to make little ad pictures that had a picture of their face, a picture of their abdomen pattern, and their name. Just basically a really cute, like, jump out at you ad picture for each spider on MorphMarket to really pull people in and give them a very quick view of, like, this is what the spider's face looks like, this is what their pattern on their abdomen looks like. Aren't they cute? So the way I did that was I used Canva. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. If not, it's basically, I would call it like a Photoshop Lite online tool. You can do a lot of photo editing, projects, pieces like that. I use it for my daytime job a lot, so I already have an account that lets me use it for other purposes. And from there, I just, went through and chose the clearest shots of each baby, put them together so they were featured in one picture, and then chose the font color for their name. I gotta be honest, I really love this part just because it let me look up close at each baby and see their face. And when you're raising, what started out as 50 babies for, since March, 8-9 months, they kind of all blend together. You take care of them, you feed them, you water them, but you aren't stopping and looking at their face every day. And it's honestly really nice getting to kind of slow down and be like, oh, that's what that baby looks like. I love that baby. So that was a really fun part, getting to make the pictures for the ads. Finally, once the pictures were all created, I had to make ad listings for each of the individual spiders. And what that looks like on MorphMarket, once you have your account, once you have your store approved, you go in and you add all of your animals. And basically, I just created a blank template for a I7, I8 Phidippus johnsoni jumper. And I duplicated it 29 times, so that way I had a very quick template. I could go in, fill in name, fill in number, and fill in picture. And it was ready to go really quickly. I actually think that was the quickest part of the process, which was really nice because, using a new site, especially when it comes to actually selling things or selling animals, which is even more stressful, it can be kind of scary. And MorphMarket actually has a really easy setup when you're creating your storefront and creating your ad listings. I will say what a lot of vendors do when it comes to jumping spiders, spiders in general, but mostly jumping spiders on MorphMarket, is in the ad listing, they include the species, the sex, the instar, and the name. And if you have any specific variety of jumping spider, like if you have a Phidippus regius, but it was a special morph, they'll include that as well. And that's it. Now I have a fully functioning storefront on MorphMarket with all 29 of my Phidippus johnsoni babies available for sale. And actually, it was a much easier and smoother process than I thought it would be. I've kind of been nervous about setting up a MorphMarket account, and I've kind of been putting it off and hoping I could find people locally to buy, which I did, but with 50 babies, it's hard to find someone locally to buy 50 jumping spider babies. I will say too, in the storefront, if you go and see my MorphMarket store, I made sure to include information about my account here, but more importantly, shipping policies around temperature, overnight shipping, stuff like that, and also just payment policy. So before I wrap up, I kind of want to add a special note here. I am not planning on staying in the vending side of the spider hobby or really entering it at all. I really like my place in the spider hobby. I really like having a platform that I can build that allows me to show off other vendors and breeders in the hobby and just the wonderful spider species that we all get to work with. I don't really want to be a breeder or a vendor. especially because there's so many wonderful vendors already in the hobby and so many wonderful, careful, sustainable breeders that you just don't need another jumping spider breeder in the hobby right now. The only reason I say that is I want to make sure those of you that follow me don't think that I'm trying to shift this channel into a promotion for selling spiders. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just really not where my heart is in this hobby. For me, this hobby is this really wonderful thing where I get to grow in a community that really loves and cherishes animals that don't get the love and respect that they deserve, and sharing knowledge about them is just a really special thing that I get to do because of this channel. So I just want to, you know, add a note that there are wonderful vendors and breeders in the hobby. I don't need to be one, and hopefully I'll get to platform more of them in the future. And to add to that, the reason I am selling these babies, there's actually two reasons. One is it's a way to get more captive hatched. Unfortunately, they're not captive bred, but they are captive hatched Phidippus johnsonis into the hobby, because this species, although it's not rare, I wouldn't call it super rare. It's not a consistently available species the way Phidippus regius is. And because of that, there's a lot of wild caught specimens getting sold in the hobby, just like Molly. And with my platform as someone that's in the hobby, I really, really want to help people shift away from buying wild caught, because we don't need to. We have so many resources in the hobby of breeders. And so if you're someone who has always really loved this species of spider or wants to learn more about this species of spider, I want to add some to the market that are not gravid and not wild caught, just to help us kind of grow that species in the hobby. Second reason I'm selling these babies is because it's going to help me free up some shelf space on my spider shelf, because down the road I do have some exciting videos planned with some exciting species, and although I have the room and I have the space, I'd like to make sure that I have, you know, open shelf space for any interesting spiders that might come into my life. That is going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at 8-Legged Babes if you're interested in watching any of my reels or stills or silly, stupid memes that I like to post. And if you are someone interested in purchasing a Phidippus johnsoni baby, check out my MorphMarket page. I'll link it in the description below, but it'll also be linked in my main page here on YouTube. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.